This world has been connected, tied to the darkness, soon to be completely eclipsed.
Hello there, Servum17 once again. This is my Kingdom Hearts Final Mix Proud Difficulty walkthrough. We're headed towards the Coliseum. As you can see, we're in the gummy ship. So we're doing some casual violence in the gummy ship. And I've just got a really interesting comment on this guide from somebody saying that when he noticed that you couldn't cancel out of the roll or out of any of the animations, you know, it made some of the precision needed to beat these harder difficulties. It just wasn't there, and it turned the game more into, you know, grinding for levels and whoring items, which are two strategies that are extremely valid and they do work. If you're having troubles on this game, you can level up and it'll get easier. You can, you know, throw more items at it and it will get significantly easier. They are two choices. But at the same time, there are still ways to do it without doing either of those. There are still skillful ways of beating the game, but they're not perhaps the way you're used to approaching the game. For instance, a lot of the enemies can be beaten without taking any damage if you're intelligently using your skills and you know how the patterns work. Sure, there are times when you'll get hit off screen and stuff, which is kind of annoying, but the notion is that once you learn the restrictions of the movement and the rolls and the jumps and things along those lines, it's when you learn how to use them better, and when not to use them, when to use them, and things along that lines. Like, learning to tech attacks is almost better than evading. And sure, you can do this by, you know, mashing attack button, but it's much better to have the timings down. Same with the guard. If you get good with the guard, you'll be really good at this game. I mean, it's hard as balls and it's really weird timing, but you don't take any damage and you'll stun enemies. Guarding is very skill-based and very difficult to do, but extremely useful and rewarding. But the main thing that I noticed, and the thing I noticed when I watched speedruns and when I saw people do no damage runs and things, is the patience and the planning that goes into most of the fights, and the boss fights in particular. A lot of the enemies on this game attack a lot. They attack repeatedly, and there's very small windows to attack them back. And because they've got such high life, you know, you feel like you should be in there trudging because it seems like it takes forever. But the intelligent player who wants to take the skillful approach on these games goes in, attacks in that interim for maybe 1 to 3 hits, and then gets out. Waits for the boss to swing, gets back in. 1 or 2 hits, gets out. And that's how they fight the fight. And it takes a long time, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of skill, but you can beat the game in a fashion that doesn't involve item whoring and leveling up. And for instance, this guide is not going to show any leveling up because I didn't do it. I just played and I just got on with it. And at times I did feel a little bit under-leveled, especially at the end of the game, but it doesn't matter because you can still get through. There are going to be a couple of fights where I definitely use a lot of items. Mainly because I was trying to get the Speedster and it helped me do them quicker. But through the same logic, I have fought those fights at a much slower pace and had success, so I'm going to share those strategies as well. And I just want people that are coming to this game and noticing the problems with it when it comes to, you know, the high-end precision action games that it doesn't have. I just want people to be aware that there are still ways to apply that same mentality that you've got and those skills that you have. You just have to do it in a different direction. Like, this game is all about spacing. If you space attacks correctly, you'll never get hit. If you go in and you don't get greedy and you attack at the right amount of times before the enemy recovers and hits you, you can get out without taking damage. And a lot of the videos in this guide are going to show you bits of this, like little openings and things, but it's not going to show you the most finessed run. So it's one of those things where you've got to find a middle ground that suits yourself. Like, I would have loved to have took my time and got perfect no damage runs against all the bosses, and I know it's something that I could do all the way up to maybe the dragon, because I fucking hate the dragon, but it would have taken a lot longer. And the whole, you know, focus of this channel is to bring these videos to you at quite a brisk pace, especially when they're modern and they've just, you know, been released, this high definition collection especially, so that it's relevant. And it's good to go back to them and all that good stuff, but sometimes then you've got less influence than you would have had if you did them earlier. So the motivations of this is literally to get you through the game on Proud and get you through the game in under 15 hours. But I just want to, you know, put a final statement on this, saying that there is skill to be found here if you're willing to invest the time and you're willing to play the game by the rules that it sets for you. Because if you try and play this like a Devil May Cry, you're going to get beat up. Because it isn't that kind of game. And as much as I would love it to have that level of mastery and that level of precision, it really doesn't. And I hope in the future that they fix a lot of that. Like, one of the things that is most difficult to adjust to, I found, was the iframes in the roll. The roll does have iframes in this game, but they are so slight that using it can get you killed a lot of the times. And then other times you'll be fine, and it can be really difficult to assess how exactly you did something differently. And I've been watching some of the PSP game Birth by Sleep, and apparently the rolls on those games have tons of iframes, so it's obviously something that Square's looked into and changed to make it a little bit more accessible. Because I'm a big fan of using invulnerability frames. I'm a bit of a whore for them, if I'm, you know, telling it straight shooting, which I always try to do. Like, if I find a technique or something that gives me invulnerability, I'm going to use it as much as I can. And there's a move in this game that does exactly that, and it's one of the abilities we're going to be getting. I think it's called Strike Back or something like that. And Sora throws the Keyblade, and when he throws it, he's completely invulnerable for 5 or 6 attacks, which is a good 10 to 15, well, maybe not that long, maybe about 10 seconds. And if you get an attack that you can't dodge, and you have no idea how to combat it, just do that. It takes 2 MP, which is quite a heavy consumption early on, but for the immunity that it gives you, it's perfect. And later on in the game, we're going to get an ability called the Leaf Bracer, which makes you completely invincible when you're healing with a magic spell. So you can actually use Cure as an iframe to get through an attack that you can't dodge. And that makes this game, in some respects, significantly easier than it used to be, because you're not getting stunned and you're not getting your Cure cancelled all the time. But unfortunately, this ability doesn't, you know, it doesn't cover items as well, which would be awesome if it did, because then it'd be fair. But we're at the Coliseum. You'll notice I've just done the 2 tests to talk to Phil, where you smash the crates. Once you've done that, he tells you that you're not ready for the games. If you go outside, Hades will give you a pass, come back in, and then you can finally take part. But just bear in mind, there's some tough fights in this, and your final fight on the prelims is against Cloud. And I've got to say, guys, my fighting, or my knowledge of Cloud on this game is lacking. Like, I know the moves he does, I know 2 of his openings, but I don't really know the best and most successful ways to damage him quickly. You know, a lot of my strategies against Cloud involve being very defensive. Like, we don't have any of the fancy abilities that do massive damage, like Ars Arcanum or Ragnarok or any of that stuff. So instead, we're just going to be doing jump combos against him. And I should get his stats out for you, because that's one of the cool things about this guide so far. I've got the book to tell you some info. So let's have a looky as we go against the Sinister Wave 2. Alright, Cloud. So once again, this is based off of normal mode, so just increase these statistics accordingly, because Proud is probably double, if not 1/3. And it says here that on this encounter his HP is 300, Strength is 11, Defense is 10, and he drops nothing because we're in the Coliseum, obviously. His weaknesses are the weapon, the Keybladed hits, and Thunder. Everything else is less effective. So yeah, just bear that in mind. But Cloud does come back in the Hades Cup and in various things like that, so we will see him again at a much stronger rate. So here are a couple of the red Nocturnes and the blue guys. And something to note with these enemies, when they fire their projectile, you can hit it back, but it requires good timing. And once again, the game tries its best to not give you attacks that are easy to time. But here's me trying to skip the exposition. And then we've got 2 shadows, 2 soldiers, and 3 red Nocturnes here. Oh, and a blue guy too. And the lock-on, as you can tell, is not helping me at all, because at this moment in time I'm still playing without the auto aim, because it really bugged me on my first playthrough. So I thought I'd try without it, and For certain situations, I had a lot of success without it, but for other situations, it didn't work so well. But always try and lead with a jumping combo into a ground combo if you can. Always try and take out the ones that you view to be the biggest threat. For me, that is the magic guys, because they'll hit you off screen. They do a lot of damage. This is nothing but blues. So the good thing about this is at the beginning they all cram together so you can get some big hits. Right there I jump. I shouldn't have jumped. I should have rolled. And I've just noticed as well that I've got Cure, and I didn't even realise. There goes my buddies helping me out though with items, because I do have them set on to only use items in emergencies, and when your life is flickering like that, that's classed as an emergency, I believe. But there's nothing here too challenging because we've come here after we were supposed to come, so we do have an advantage. We have a better Keyblade, we have Cure now, we have, you know, more MP. Everybody's stronger, so this shouldn't be too bad. Here's another cutscene. And here is... Ooh. So we've got a large body, we've got some reds and some blues. So obviously the big guy, you want to hit him from behind. You want to be aware of his belly flop, his ground shockwave and all his moves. And just be aware, when you bounce off his tummy, sometimes he'll go immediately into a move. And he does a lot of damage on this difficulty, so you want to be careful with him. And you'll notice that I do a jump and then I attack when I'm above him. What sometimes happens if you hit him in the face is you'll do something which I believe is called a crossover in beat-em-ups, where, you know, they attack from above you. Which I could be wrong, but I've heard the expression enough. And that's exactly what I'm going for. I'm going for to get past his belly guard. I'm going to hit him at the top of his character and do the damage I normally would from behind, but it allows me to do it from a jumping position, so that's why I'm trying to do that. But there we go. Donald's happy. He must have got the last hit, or did the most damage, hence why we get to see a little fanfare of him. And this is it, guys. This is Cloud. So Cloud looks so badass, man. This game is old now. We're looking, it's 11 years old, and he still looks like a badass. Like, he's wearing the Vincent cape and the Vincent glove. He's got a massive Buster Sword again. This time it's wrapped in bandages. He looks... Goddamn, Cloud looks good. And I know it's cliche to think Cloud looks cool. That's bullshit, but I should have seen it coming. But he really does in this game. So his attacks are simple. He does a standard combo, he does a jump attack that tracks on you and has an area of effect. That's his standard combo, and he also does a thrusting move. When he's not attacking, and he covers distance with a jump that you just saw then, and my strategy is simple. Attack him after any of his attacks when you think you can land them. Because what Cloud will do is, he blocks really well, and he parries too, so he can do some very fast damage. And what will happen is once you get him down to low life, he'll go into like a limit break equivalent mode where he starts flying around doing attacks. And God, he's such a bastard. If you've ever played Dark Souls, when people run at you with a greatsword and you know they're going to do the greatsword swing, but they're literally touching you, still running into you, and they're not swinging, and you wonder when they're going to swing, that's what he does with the flying attack. Because he gets super close to you, you roll, and he doesn't swing, and as you're coming out of your roll, he hits you. So you've got to be really careful. But roll, go into the jump attack. That's unavoidable. That's one of those moments where if it doesn't stun him and he decides to do a combo, there's absolutely nothing you can do. Which is one of the things that is a little bit disappointing with the combat, but, you know, it's just how it is. You need to accept it or you'll just get frustrated. And my logic now is, can I tech his dash attack? Can I cancel that move by attacking it? The big problem is, if I don't land it, it's going to take off half my life. So, a lot of practice to be put in against Cloud, but I'm going to do probably some arena fights in separate videos, just to give you some fun videos and some strategies against the bosses that I weren't as strong against, like this. Because this fight takes me a long time, and I really think I can do it quicker once I figure out how to beat him efficiently. But there goes Cloud. This is me changing the shortcut buttons. You might be wondering why I've changed where they were. On my first playthrough I had them in a set position and it was different to the standard position, so I was trying to do Cure and I was casting spells and all sorts of madness was happening, so make sure you put it to what you're comfortable with and you'll have the most success. But there's Slapshot, which I still haven't put on, which is really silly. I don't know why I don't have Slapshot on, because it's super useful. Because I believe it's the hit that stuns them. But there's one fight left now, and it's against the enemy that crushed Cloud in the cinematic, which is Cerberus, who, if your Greek mythology is decent, you'll remember. If you played any game, I guess you'll probably remember one, because they seem to be everywhere. And this boss is interesting. And he's interesting because you can't hit anything but his faces, and his faces can be really difficult to land. Like, you can stand behind his legs sometimes and get off some chains of attacks, but it's awkward, and it's another one of those fights where I can't remember how I used to do it, so instead I bait the attacks, I get a few hits, and then I roll away. And unfortunately, sometimes I get caught, because such is the nature of the beast when you don't have a valid strategy. Like then, I got caught, then I teched it. Right. But I will be finding the best way to fight this enemy, and hopefully put up a video to help that out. But as it stands, I'm going to use my cures, I'm going to hit and run. There's his ground shockwave, which you need to jump up over. If you roll, unless you're super good with the iframes, which I don't think you can be, I'm not too sure though, I wouldn't recommend rolling through it, I would recommend jumping. And then the only attack left is when he puts his head up in the air, and you get chased by a bunch of like darkness pools, and they come up as big pillars of darkness. This is it here. Puts his head in the air, spills all that stuff out, and then it chases you. And you need to be careful here, folks, because it comes out of the ground in front of you sometimes, and you can run into it. And as you see, he's doing the kind of lock-on meteor strikes while he chases you down. So just patience, get a few hits, get out of there. And he doesn't have too much life. We'll see how much life he's supposed to have. Right, so it says here, guys, that his attack type is fire and dark. So if you want to put on some equipment, if you have any, that defends against dark and fire, you might have a better chance of taking more hits if you're dying quickly. It says he has 600 life, 11 strength, 10 defense, and he gives you an Inferno Band when you kill him. He's vulnerable to thunder and your weapon. Everything else is kind of weak. So pretty standard stuff there, really. There's the big shockwave. That time's how you're supposed to evade it. Here he comes dropping the crazy ground pillars again. And I think this fight would be better if you could get on top of Cerberus, and I think you can with the better jump. But I just didn't have any luck here, because I was trying to fight him like the Behemoth guys, who is an enemy that I'm really comfortable with fighting now, because you have to fight like 7 of them, which is dumb. And they've got tons of life and only about 3 attacks, which is really disappointing because they take forever and they're pretty linear. See, look, I'm trying to jump on his hind legs. There he goes with his face combo. But I think you can hit him from behind his leg. Let's have a see what the book says. The Book of Truth. Right. So it says here, although the game automatically targets its head, you can damage it with its neck and parts of its chest. So it says, try to place yourself behind Cerberus's left front leg to avoid the painful bites. Attack from this point and quickly jump away to avoid the shockwave. So there you go. It's a little bit of interesting knowledge. You can still hurt its neck and its chest. But thanks for watching, and you take care now.